Imagine you are holding your last dollar, not metaphorically, literally. It is everything you have at that moment, and then someone next to you needs help. What do? Most people would say the obvious answer is to hold on to what they have, protect what is left, wait for the situation to improve before thinking about helping. And that answer makes complete sense from the perspective of conventional logic. But what if that logic is exactly what is keeping the flow of abundance blocked in your life? Today you are going to discover why the act of giving, especially when it seems like there is nothing to give, can be the most powerful gesture that exists to force the universe to act in your favor. Not because it is a magic formula, not because the universe works like an automatic reward machine, but because giving from a place of faith, even with little, communicates something profound about who you are and about what you believe is possible for your life. And the universe, in a way that goes beyond linear logic, always responds to that communication. Before we continue, tell us in the comments, which country are you watching this video from? We would love to know where each person on this journey of consciousness and prosperity is coming from. And if you have not subscribed to the channel yet, do it now and turn on the notification bell, because what comes in the next videos is going to keep deepening everything you are going to discover here today. Each person who subscribes helps us reach our first 1,000 subscribers, and every subscriber is part of this team. You are about to understand that the relationship between giving and receiving goes far beyond what any conventional financial logic could explain. And stay until the end of this video, because we have prepared a special exercise for you. The Quantum Generosity Reset, a simple and powerful practice that will help you take the first concrete step toward a new identity of abundance starting today. There is a quiet moment, almost invisible, when the hand closes before the mind even decides. It is the instant someone asks for something, and the body already reacts with a subtle tension, a tightening in the chest, an inner voice whispering, "No, hold on to that. You might need it later." This movement does not come from reason. It comes from an old, almost ancestral belief that says the world is limited and that what leaves you never comes back. And the most striking part is that most people have never realized they are living inside this pattern. But there is another kind of open hand, one that moves not because there is plenty, but because there is a deep trust that the flow never stops. This person also feels the tightness, also feels the hesitation, but chooses to act differently. They give not because they are certain of the outcome, but because they understand something few people grasp. The universe does not respond to how much you have. It responds to what you believe about what you have. And that belief, more than any bank balance, is what determines what comes next. Because what the universe reads is not the gesture itself. It reads the intention behind the gesture. Most people have never realized that there are two completely different types of generosity, even though they look identical from the outside. The first is generosity, disguised as fear, the kind that gives expecting recognition, or that gives with guilt, calculating how much is being lost. The second is the generosity of faith, the kind that gives as a quiet declaration that there is more where this came from. And it is exactly this second form that creates a different vibration, a frequency that the universe somehow always detects. Because the universe does not measure the size of the gesture. It measures the energy behind it. The most curious part is that this difference is not in the words or in the visible actions. It is in something much more subtle, something that usually goes unnoticed until it starts being observed closely. And it is precisely this invisible detail that will open the door to understanding why some people, even giving little, seem to attract so much, while others, even accumulating, live with the feeling that it is never enough. There is a silent law that governs the flow of resources, and almost no one notices it while living inside of it. Before any multiplication, before any doors open, there is always a small moment of testing. It is not a test created by someone. It is not an external judgment. It is more like a quiet question life keeps asking again and again, waiting to see what answer will show up. And the answer you give in these moments, even without realizing it, is being recorded on some level much deeper than the conscious mind can reach. These tests rarely look like tests. They show up disguised as ordinary situations, someone asking for help at an inconvenient time, an opportunity to contribute when resources already seem scarce, an invitation to share something that felt too yours to be divided. And the response a person gives in these moments, without realizing it, is being recorded on some deeper level, like an energetic signature that defines what can or cannot come next. The universe does not test to punish. It tests to confirm whether you are truly ready to receive what you are asking for. That is why so many people say, "I want more so I can give more," yet live trapped in a cycle where more never arrives. They are waiting for abundance before changing their behavior, when in reality, it is the behavior that needs to come first. The universe is not interested in what you promise to do once you have. It is watching what you do with what you already have, even if it is little, even if it seems insignificant. If this idea resonates with you, like this video, because every like is a declaration that you are ready to play by a different set of rules. And here is the detail that changes everything. These tests do not happen just once. They repeat in cycles in different intensities until the response becomes consistent. It is not about one big isolated gesture. It is about a pattern. And it is exactly this pattern, repeated over time, that will reveal something surprising about how multiplication really works and why it almost never arrives the way the mind expects. There are stories that cross cultures, generations, and traditions and still carry the same core. One of them speaks of someone who had very little, almost nothing, and yet, faced with another person in need, chose to share what was left. Not because there was plenty, not because it was easy, but because something stronger than fear was present in that moment, a quiet trust that the gesture itself already changed something. These stories did not survive through time by accident. They carry a truth that human experience recognizes instinctively, even when the rational mind resists. What these stories reveal is not about luck nor coincidence. They reveal a pattern about how trust operates before evidence. The person who shares their last piece of bread has no guarantee they will eat the next day. They act even without that certainty. And it is exactly this action, taken without guarantees, that seems to open a different kind of space, as if the gesture communicated something beyond words. I trust this is not the end, and this communication, made on an energetic and nonverbal level, is what seems to move something in the invisible field around that person. Many people live waiting to feel certain before acting. They think, when I have more, I will help more, or when my situation improves, I will be more generous. But this thought, as logical as it sounds, reverses the natural order of things. Trust is not the reward for having enough. It is what precedes the arrival of enough. And that is exactly what these stories about the last piece of bread, told in so many different forms throughout time, keep showing us. Share this video with someone who is going through a difficult financial moment, because sometimes the right message arrives exactly when it is most needed. There is something even deeper hidden in these stories, something that goes beyond the act of giving itself. It has to do with what the person feels about themselves in the moment of choice. And it is exactly this inner feeling, more than the external action, that seems to be the real turning point. And understanding this completely changes how someone can apply this principle in their own life, starting now. There is a subtle but powerful difference between valuing money and being attached to it. Valuing means recognizing its importance, taking care of it, using it wisely. Attachment is something else. It is when money stops being a tool and becomes emotional security identity, something that needs to be controlled at all times to avoid feeling fear. And it is exactly this excessive control that, paradoxically, starts blocking the very flow a person desires. Because what is held too tightly stops moving, and what stops moving stops growing. Think of water running through a river. As long as it flows freely, the river stays alive, renewed, full of movement. But if someone builds a dam, trying to hold back all that water, the opposite of what is expected happens. The water stops, stagnates, and what was once life starts becoming something still and heavy. Money works in a similar way. When someone holds on too tightly, afraid to let go, even when it is to pay a bill, make a donation, or simply spend on something necessary, the energy around that money changes. It stops flowing and starts contracting. And energetic contraction is the exact opposite of what attracts abundance. This attachment usually does not come from money itself, but from a deeper belief about scarcity. A person may even have enough resources, yet live as if constantly on the edge of losing everything. And it is this inner state, more than the exact number in the bank account, that communicates to the world. There is no room for more here. Everything is locked, and the world somehow responds to that message. If you are subscribed to the channel, turn on the notification bell right now, because each video here is an opportunity to identify and dissolve exactly these invisible blocks. What is interesting is that breaking this pattern does not mean spending recklessly or ignoring financial planning. It actually means changing the internal relationship with money, allowing it to circulate without fear. And this shift, as small as it may seem, is what prepares the ground for what comes next. Understanding why some people, even with little, live in expansion, while others, even with a lot, live in constant scarcity. There are two realities that often get confused, but are actually completely different. One is the reality of numbers, of what is or is not available at a given moment. The other is the reality of perception, the story the mind tells about those numbers. And it is exactly this second reality, often invisible, that ends up determining far more than the first ever could. Because numbers change, but the perception about them tends to remain the same until something consciously interrupts it. A person can have exactly enough to live well, yet carry the constant feeling that something is missing. Another person with similar resources can live with the feeling of having enough and even more. The difference is not in the bank account. It is in the lens through which each one looks at their own life. And that lens, shaped over years, sometimes decades, is what silently decides whether someone lives in expansion or in contraction. Bruce Lipton explains in The Biology of Belief that the subconscious processes reality through filters established before the age of 7, and that these filters continue operating automatically in adult life unless they are consciously identified and rewritten. When the dominant belief is it is not enough, every expense becomes a threat, every opportunity for generosity becomes a risk, and every achievement, no matter how big, never seems enough to calm that feeling. It is like trying to fill a cup with a hole in the bottom. No matter how much is poured in, the feeling of emptiness remains. And this feeling, more than any external situation, is what keeps the cycle of scarcity repeating itself. Like this video, if you have ever reached a financial goal and still felt like it was not enough, because recognizing that pattern is already the first step to dissolving it. Changing this perception does not mean ignoring financial reality or pretending everything is fine when it is not. It means, first of all, observing this inner narrative, noticing when it is in control, and slowly starting to offer the mind new evidence, new experiences that show another possibility. And it is exactly this shift in perception that will open space to understand something even more surprising. Why, in some cases, giving more, even with little, is what truly accelerates receiving. It seems contradictory, almost illogical. How can someone who has little give more and still seem to receive more in return? Conventional logic would say this is impossible, that giving reduces, that sharing diminishes what remains. And on the material level, that might even be true in the short term. But there is another, more subtle level, where something completely different is happening. A level where the direction of flow is determined not by the amount available, but by the inner posture of the person at the center of that flow. When someone gives from a place of faith, even if that person has little, they are, without knowing it, sending a powerful message to themselves and to the world. I am someone who has enough to share. This identity, I am someone who has, is completely different from I am someone who lacks. And identities, more than circumstances, are what shape what comes next. The act of giving, in this sense, is not just a transaction. It is a declaration about who this person is becoming. And the universe somehow always responds to declarations made with consistency. There are countless reports from different times and places of people who, even facing difficulties, chose to contribute something and shortly after, in often unexpected ways, saw resources arrive through paths they had never imagined. It is not magic. It is not coincidence repeated by chance. It is a pattern. And when enough people over time report the same pattern, it is worth paying attention. Share this video with someone you feel is stuck in a scarcity mindset, because sometimes a single idea is what separates someone from their next level of prosperity. If this idea resonates with you, leave it written in the comments. I give with faith. This small gesture, writing these words, is already a way of declaring this new identity to yourself, because words written with intention have the power to anchor a new belief much faster than thought alone can do. Throughout history, in completely different cultures, with no direct connection to one another, similar stories repeat themselves. Someone facing hardship, faced with a choice between keeping the little they had or sharing it, chooses to share, and shortly after, their reality begins to change in ways no one could have predicted. These stories did not survive through time by accident. They carry something that resonates deeply with human experience, something that seems to confirm, again and again, the same principle, that genuine generosity opens doors that conventional logic could never open. In some traditions, there are stories of travelers who received shelter from humble families and who, in return, brought unexpected blessings to those homes. In others, there are stories of coins, grain, or resources that, given away in times of scarcity, returned multiplied through completely different paths than the ones they were given through. What matters here is not the specific details of these stories, but the emotional pattern behind them. Generosity coming from a place of trust, not material abundance. And this pattern, repeated across so many cultures and different eras, suggests that this is not coincidence, but a law that operates regardless of belief, culture, or context. Even outside spiritual or symbolic contexts, there are reports of ordinary people who, during financial hardship, chose to help someone, make a small donation, or share something they had, and who, weeks or months later, described significant changes in their circumstances often through opportunities that had no apparent direct connection to the original gesture. Coincidence, maybe, but when the same pattern repeats so many times, in so many different contexts, maybe it is something more. If you are subscribed to the channel and have the notification bell on, you will not miss the next video, because what is coming connects directly with everything we are exploring here. What these stories, real or symbolic, have in common is that change never arrived through the door the person expected. And it is exactly this detail, the unexpected path through which transformation arrives, that deserves a closer look, because it reveals something about how multiplication really works, something that is about to become even clearer. Joe Dispenza often talks about how the brain and body respond much more to repeated emotions than to isolated events, and this connects directly to the act of giving. Every time someone shares something, even something small, the body registers an emotion, the emotion of being someone who has enough to offer. And when this emotion repeats, it starts becoming part of a new identity, not just a passing thought, but a conviction that the nervous system begins to recognize as truth. And convictions recognized by the nervous system as truth are exactly what shapes behaviors, decisions, and results in a consistent way. Identity is different from desire. Wanting to have money is one thing, but identifying as someone who already has enough to share is completely different. The first keeps a person in a constant state of seeking, always a few steps behind what they want. The second already places them, energetically, where they would like to be, and it is this subtle but powerful difference that seems to determine how quickly things start to change. Because the universe does not respond to what you ask, it responds to what you are. And what you are is built gesture by gesture, choice by choice, day after day. Every act of generosity, then, can be seen as a vote, a silent vote, repeated over time, about what kind of person someone is choosing to be. I am someone who lacks, or I am someone who has. And just like any election, it is the repetition of votes that decides the final result, not a single isolated gesture, but the pattern built one gesture at a time. Like this video, if you want to start voting today for the identity of someone who has, regardless of what the current financial scoreboard is showing. What this means in practice is that no one needs to wait until they have a lot to start voting for the identity they want to build. Small gestures, done consistently, begin reprogramming this inner perception. And it is exactly this process of reprogramming, quiet and gradual, that prepares the ground for what is about to be revealed, something that connects everything said so far with a direct, practical action. There is a tendency that is very common when it comes to mindset change. People wait for a big transformative experience, a defining event, a powerful revelation that turns everything upside down all at once. And although these experiences exist and are real, neuroscience shows something different about how mental reprogramming actually happens in most cases. It happens in layers, through small repeated gestures that gradually replace old patterns with new ones. And the act of giving, even if small, is one of the most powerful triggers for this process. Every time someone practices a conscious act of generosity, even something as simple as paying for someone's coffee, leaving a slightly larger tip than usual, or sharing something of value with another person without expecting anything in return, the brain registers this behavior as part of who that person is. Over time, these records accumulate and begin to create a new inner narrative. I am someone who gives. I am someone who has enough to share. I am someone who lives in flow. And inner narratives, when repeated with consistency, become the foundation on which external reality is built. Write in the comments, now, what was the last act of generosity you practiced, no matter how small, because recognizing these moments is already part of the reprogramming process. What makes this process even more interesting is that it does not require great sacrifices. In fact, great sacrifices made with resentment produce the opposite effect, reinforcing the belief in scarcity instead of dissolving it. What produces real reprogramming are small gestures, done with lightness and genuine intention to contribute, because the brain does not measure the size of the gesture. It measures the emotion behind it. And a genuine emotion of abundance, even if generated by a small gesture, is registered with the same intensity as a large gesture done without feeling. And here is the invitation that few people notice. Reprogramming for abundance does not begin when you have more. It begins now with what you have, through gestures that seem small on the outside but are immense on the inside. And it is exactly this understanding that will prepare you for the next step, the most concrete and direct of everything explored so far. Everything shared so far points to the same direction, a direction that may not have been clear at the beginning, but now starts to reveal itself more clearly. The way someone relates to what they have, even if it is little, even if it seems insignificant, communicates something far beyond the obvious. It is not about quantity, it never was. It is about the energy, the belief, the inner posture that accompanies every gesture, every choice, every decision made in relation to the resources available. And this posture, more than any financial strategy, is what determines what the universe gives back. This is not about big gestures, dramatic decisions, or radical changes overnight. It is, in fact, about something much simpler and, at the same time, much more powerful. Small choices made consistently day after day, building, brick by brick, a new way of existing in relation to money, to resources, and to life as a whole. Each of these choices, no matter how small it may seem on its own, carries within it the weight of a new identity being formed. And identities formed with consistency are what produce realities transformed with permanence. And perhaps the most important question left after everything that has been said is not, when will I have enough to give more, but rather, what kind of person do I choose to be starting now with what I already have in my hands? This question, as simple as it may seem at first, is, in fact, a deep invitation. An invitation to stop waiting for permission from circumstances and start acting from who you wish to become. Share this video with someone you feel is waiting for perfect conditions to start living in abundance. Because sometimes the biggest change begins when someone shows us that we already have enough to start now. This invitation, as small as it may seem, is exactly the kind of decision that prepares the ground for what comes next. A practical exercise, simple and direct, that will turn everything understood so far into something tangible, something that can be felt within the next few minutes. Before closing this video, it is time to turn everything you heard into a real experience. Because understanding that generosity reprograms your relationship with abundance is one thing. Practicing it consciously and intentionally, feeling the change happening inside you, is completely different. This exercise takes less than 10 minutes, but done with genuine honesty and real intention, it can be the beginning of one of the biggest shifts you have ever experienced in your relationship with money. The first thing you are going to do is sit in silence for a moment and think of something you can offer to someone still today. It does not have to be money. It can be time, attention, a piece of knowledge, a word of encouragement, or a simple gesture that you know will make a difference to another person. The size does not matter. What matters is that it is something real, something you genuinely have, and that can flow through you to another person. As you think about this, notice what comes up inside. resistance, lightness, fear, openness. Simply observe, without judgment. Then, before carrying out this gesture, you are going to do something simple but powerful. Place your hand on your chest, take a deep breath, and declare internally, with genuine intention, I have enough to share, and by sharing, I open space to receive more. It does not need to be out loud. It does not need to be perfect. It needs to be sincere. And then carry out the gesture. Give what you chose to give in the lightest and most detached way you can, without calculating the return, without expecting recognition, simply as a quiet declaration of who you are choosing to be. Finally, at the end of the day, before going to sleep, take a moment to record how you felt when you carried out this gesture, not the external result, but the inner state it generated, because it is in this record, made with consciousness and gratitude, that the reprogramming deepens and begins to create permanent roots in your identity of abundance. This is your quantum generosity reset, and you can repeat it every day with different gestures, building gesture by gesture the version of you that naturally lives in flow. You made it to the end, and that already says something important about the kind of person you are becoming. The person who believes they have nothing to offer does not make it to the end of a video like this one. You made it because something in you already recognizes that generosity is not about how much you have. It is about who you choose to be with what you have. And this choice, made consciously and repeated with consistency, is what begins to move the universe in your favor in ways that conventional logic could never predict. What was explored today is not a pretty theory about spirituality and money. It is a deep understanding of how the internal relationship with resources determines what flows into a person's life. You understood the difference between giving out of fear and giving out of faith. You saw why the universe tests generosity before multiplying anything. You discovered what the stories of the last piece of bread reveal about trust. You understood how attachment blocks flow. You saw the difference between not having and believing you do not have. You learned why those who give more, even with little, often receive more in return. You heard stories of generosity that preceded major changes. You understood that every act of giving is a vote for your new identity, and you learned how small acts of generosity reprogram the mind for abundance. The question that remains is not, when will I have enough to start giving? The question that transforms is, what kind of person do I choose to be starting now with what I already have? Because abundance does not begin when the balance grows. It begins when the identity changes. And identity changes gesture by gesture, choice by choice, day after day. Share this video with someone you feel is waiting to have more before starting to live in abundance. Because sometimes the biggest shift begins when someone shows us that we already have enough to start right now. If this content touched something in you, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and continue this journey with Kai and Lyra. Because in the next video, we are going to explore something that will completely change the way you see the environment around you. How the place where you live, the people you spend time with, and the spaces you frequent are silently defining your financial ceiling, and what to do to consciously and permanently expand that ceiling. See you there.